The Los Angeles Kings had their season officially come to an end over the weekend when they got swept by the Colorado Avalanche and lost on home ice in Anze Kopitar's final game of his career. It sucked. I think Kopi is one of the classiest players in the league, similar to Patrice Bergeron, one of those guys that is really well liked. Played a good game, was an awesome captain for them, and was there for like 20 years. It just sucks for the guy that this is the way you have to go out. At least, if they're gonna lose and if they won and played in Colorado, chances are they're gonna lose there anyways. At least the solace is that they lost and he got to be on home ice and get that final farewell from the fans. But for the LA Kings, this wasn't about Kopitar and winning the cup in his last season because that was never a realistic possibility because the team was very mediocre. There's a lot of teams in the league that could be looked at over time in terms of being mediocre and never really good enough to do anything or not crappy enough to really rebuild. The Kings are right there at this point. They're one of the prototypical mushy middle teams right now, and they aren't gonna be in a position like what do we do now? What do we do with the team going forward? Because you don't have anybody coming through the pipeline that's gonna come in, step in, and have a big role. People forget after the Kings won the cup, they had their runs for the cups there, and then they decided to kind of rebuild, even though they had Kopitar and Doughty on the roster. It was it was more of a rebuild, it wasn't really even a retool. It was kind of a rebuild, and at one point, the Kings prospects were considered to be one of the best ones in the league. And all they have to show for that right now, really, yeah, they got Alex Turcotte, but he's turning out to be not, worthy of a top five pick. They have Quinton Byfield and they have Brent Clark. Both are good players. Both will develop and turn into probably much more. Actually, I think Clark started showing that, finally getting some regular time, especially during the second half of this season. And he's someone that can put up points, play on the power play. He's an offensive defenseman, and he should be getting more consistent minutes. As for QB, I think Byfield is capable of a lot. His point total doesn't reflect that at all. He's also been concentrating on his two-way game. I do think, concerning that Byfield's development has not been linear, it's a little bit different in terms of him coming through that COVID season and dealing with injuries the other year and just being a big body. To me, he kind of reminds me of like Tage Thompson, where obviously the pedigree is different, but this guy being a second overall pick. I think Byfield will eventually break out and turn into a phenomenal top line center. However, even if that happens, what is this team going to do? Because let's say hypothetically next year Clark hits 60 points and Byfield gets like 80 to 90 points and like 30, 40 goals. Are the Kings scaring anybody? Because the rest of their roster is pretty messed up. The construction of this team was horrible. Rob Blake did whatever he did. They made the playoffs 5 straight years, and in all 5 years they've been knocked out in the first round. And every year it seems to get worse. And then they're coaching. Like Jim Hiller should have been let go after the fiasco in the playoffs last year against the Oilers. I get it. People might not say that's a defining moment. I personally think it was. They should have gotten rid of this guy and started anew with a fresh coach, and then they got rid of him this year anyways. And even that, they got rid of him way too later in the year, and it wasn't, ideal at that point. And don't forget, the Kings really, chances are if they play the Oilers, they're probably weren't going to win, obviously, but they probably had a better chance against the Kings or the Ducks than Colorado, that's for sure. And these guys could have done that, but instead, near the end of the regular season, they lost to the Canucks and the Flames. Like, they had one of the easiest schedules down the road at the end there, and they lost in overtime to Vancouver, so they at least got a point, and they flat out lost to Calgary in the last game of the season. That would have been enough to probably get them out of that wild card spot because the Pacific was so weak, and probably they even had an outside shot at second and having home ice, but they could have been third. And I'm not saying that chances are the Oilers probably would have beat them as well. But at least they had a little bit of a shot, you would think, to win maybe a couple of games, maybe make it go 7 games, maybe. But the team is poorly constructed. Luke Robitaille is terrible in his position. He needs to go. If this team decided to blow it up and rebuild, Ken Holland is a terrible GM for that. He's not good at that. He's not good at evaluating talent. I don't care what he did in Detroit. That was eons ago. It's not, and you can argue, oh, in Edmonton, fine, he had done okay, but you already had two of the best players in the world on your roster. It's really, really hard to F that up if you think about it. And then LA hires him, which is ridiculous. And he goes, and don't forget, last offseason, he signs Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin to these ridiculous contracts that everybody was like, those aren't good. And then they reflect that. It's not like sometimes there's contracts, it just blows my mind with the GMs. There's some of the stupid decisions they make. Defensively, they're so slow. The team is slow. So for next year, their defense is going to be older. I don't know if Doughty's going to retire. I think he's probably going to come back. Darcy Kemper ended up losing the starting job to Anton Forsberg, and I don't think Forsberg has that kind of pedigree that he's going to develop into some top-notch goaltender. Could be just a good run that he had. Either way, they're going to have to bring those guys back. The cap space isn't an issue, but they traded for Panarin and they got him for pennies on the dollar, and I get it. If Kevin Fiala was healthy, it might have been a different story. They still probably would have got, even if they played Colorado, got their asses kicked regardless. However, they lost Fiala. He should be back. They have Panarin. His extension kicks in. They signed Kempe to a ridiculous 8-year extension. And it's not ridiculous because Kempe didn't deserve it. He's a good player. He deserved it. It's just ridiculous because LA doesn't know what the hell they're doing with their team. So now, Kopitar is retiring. He's gone. Byfield, let's say he gets elevated to first line. So you can have Byfield, Kempe, and Panarin. Great first line. Even on the power play, which, they'll have Brant Clark back there. They could throw in Kevin Fiala. They have Alex Lafreniere, and they might sign Scott Lawton. But if they move Byfield up, who's their second line center? They're in the same position that a lot of other teams that are struggling to find a top-notch center have. They're going to be in the same position. So they don't have the center depth. Their defense is even going to be slower than last year. Their goalies aren't great. They have no draft capital to really work with. They got nothing. And so where do you go from here? You got cap space, or you're going to just go out and obviously sign some other random free agents to try to make up for it. Like, I feel sorry for Kings fans because this team is royally, and I mean just royally, because they could have had a chance to develop this into a sustainable, contender with some sort of plan in place. And that was getting some more younger defensemen. Like, they traded Jordan Spence was traded. That was ridiculous. I mean, you can't predict the Brock Faber, Kevin Fiala deal. If we didn't know, you can blame LA all you want, but we didn't know about Faber in terms of what he's going to turn into. So that's hard to say. You can say after the fact, but really. And then on top of that, it's just, I don't understand the Pierre-Luc Dubois for Kemper worked out last year. Good for 1 year. They got out of that contract. But what are you guys doing? Like, what are you going to do? Because now Anaheim and San Jose are going to kick the crap out of you for the next 10 years. The Oilers, even though they are eventually going to decline, I would take them over these guys any day of the week. Who else is Seattle's useless, Vancouver's useless, and Vegas is still, slowly on the decline, but they'll beat LA. So LA's best hope is what they just have been doing for the last 5 years, which is sneak into the first round, hope to win a game or two, and maybe luck out to win a series. So far, it hasn't worked. They just keep getting crappy from going from a 7-game loss to a 6-game to now 4 games. What are you doing here? What are we doing here? This makes zero sense. Pick a lane, and really, you guys have messed up your team. So you have enough talent to win some games. And don't forget, these guys lost, 23 overtime points or 23 overtime losses or something really dumb. This was not a good team, man. This should not have been in the playoffs. Missing the playoffs would have been the best scenario for these guys to get a better pick. Anyways, if you're a Kings fan, I feel sorry for you because you guys are screwed. You have a couple of potential pieces that will develop. I think Clark and Byfield are going to be just fine. Panarin and Kempe give you some high-end guys for now. With the contracts that they have and the salaries and the ages, you're not going to get anything of substance for them. Your defense is trash, the rest of it. And your goaltending screwed. So Good luck, LA.